Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're unpacking a moment in history that honestly gets dismissed way too often as just some dry theological event. But as we're going to see from our source material, the Second Great Awakening was actually this massive cultural explosion. It literally rewired and shaped modern American society as we know it, creating institutions and social movements that are still very much alive today. Now, to really grasp why this all happened, we have to look at the sheer scale of America at the time. I mean, in just 50 years, from 1750 to 1800, America's territory tripled and the population skyrocketed. It literally grew 5 times over. This created an incredibly chaotic, wildly expanding frontier that left established institutions completely scrambling just to catch up. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the spark of revival, then the leaders of the movement, followed by a divided awakening. After that, we'll explore the push for education, and finally, the resulting crusades and explosive growth. Section 1. The Spark of Revival. So, right after the Revolutionary War, the cultural pendulum in America had actually swung way away from religion and heavily toward politics, which created this massive spiritual vacuum. And as the nation pushed west and the population just exploded, religious leaders looked at all this chaos and basically asked themselves, will the church actually be able to keep up with this rapid expansion? They quickly realized they had to launch a massive, coordinated mission to all people just to keep pace with the exploding frontier, or else they risk losing the battle to expansion entirely. Section 2. Leaders of the movement. To organize this rapidly growing, totally unruly nation, the movement really needed architects. And geographically and intellectually, these leaders were sharply divided. Up in the north, right around the year 1800, you had men like Timothy Dwight. He was the president of Yale University, and he was absolutely determined to bring religion back to a campus that had kind of lost its bearings. He trained students like Lyman Beecher, who became this powerhouse preacher, and Nathaniel Taylor, who became a prominent professor at Yale. Together, they essentially built a real intellectual stronghold for the movement. But down in the South, well, you had a completely different figure leading the charge, a churchman and founder named Alexander Campbell. Now, what's really interesting about this is the core idea driving Campbell's movement in the South. He founded the Disciples of Christ based on a concept called restorationism. And this wasn't just about tweaking modern tradition, right? It was the powerful, absolute belief that their group was quite literally restoring the pure, original New Testament church, right then and there in the 19th century. Section 3. A Divided Awakening. As you might guess from looking at those different leaders, this awakening did not look the same everywhere. It was fundamentally split. In the North, the movement was heavily influenced by New England culture. It was very restrained, highly intellectual, centered around established institutions like Yale, and it was led by educated theologians. People sang hymns, they listened to very structured sermons. But in the South, the atmosphere was electric, wildly expressive. It was a totally different world driven by intense emotion, huge outdoor camp meetings, and uneducated lay preachers who really relied on raw passion rather than formal theological training. And the ultimate symbol of that Southern style was Cane Ridge, Kentucky, in 1801, which was the very first major camp meeting. I mean, just imagine this. Thousands of people gathering together, living in tents for 10 to 14 days straight. The source notes that these events were just filled with nonstop singing, dancing, and even people passing out from the sheer emotional intensity of it all. And as you might expect, the more restrained Northerners often looked down on these Southern gatherings as being far too emotional and completely uneducated. Section 4. The Push for Education. Let's move forward and see how this builds, because these emotional and intellectual revivals didn't just fade away after the tents were packed up. They created lasting cultural shockwaves. One of the most fascinating organizational tools that emerged from all of this was the Voluntary Society. These were cross-denominational organizations formed at the local level to tackle very specific community or missionary projects. By 1810, groups that usually kept strictly to themselves, like Presbyterians and Congregationalists, were actually banding together to form the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions. They were pulling their money and resources to quite literally change the world. But here's the thing. To actually tame the expanding American frontier and lead these ambitious new societies, they needed highly trained leaders. And this triggered an absolute boom in higher education. Elite institutions were built so rapidly. Andover Seminary was founded in 1808, then the Princeton Seminary in 1812, Harvard Divinity School in 1816, and the Yale Divinity School in 1822. They were all specifically designed to produce educated ministers who could guide this rapidly growing nation. And that massive educational push trickled all the way down to the average citizen on the frontier. We see this tremendous distribution of Bibles, along with the mass circulation of these little 4-page gospel tracts, just to get the message directly into people's hands. But honestly, here is the most fascinating part: the creation of Sunday schools. Our source points out that these weren't just for teaching theology. They were fundamentally a grassroots literacy movement. They were specifically designed to teach children how to read, so that they could actually understand the Bibles being handed out to them.
Section 5. Crusades and Explosive Growth.
This brings us to our final narrative beat. The Second Great Awakening carried a powerful mandate to love your neighbor, and that single idea completely spilled out of the churches and sparked some of the most massive humanitarian crusades in American history. You had the temperance movement, which fought for total abstinence from alcohol to combat rampant abuse in rapidly crowding cities. You had the peace movement, striving for global shalom. But very quickly, one single crusade began to overshadow absolutely everything else in American public life: the abolitionist movement, fighting for the end of slavery.
So the crucial point is captured perfectly by this defining thought from our source material. The abolitionist movement is what is going to distinguish the 19th century in American cultural life and religious life. This spiritual awakening actually drew the very moral battle lines of the impending Civil War. In fact, entire denominations, like the Wesleyan Church, began specifically as anti-slavery movements right in the middle of the century. And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering, almost unbelievable success of the Awakening as a whole. Tracking just one denomination, the Methodists, shows explosive growth. Back in 1784, around the start of this era, they had about 15,000 members in the colonies. By 1850, get this, they had exploded to over 1 million members. Thanks to traveling preachers and a message that really resonated out in the frontier, they experienced growth that completely reshaped the entire religious landscape. Which leaves us with this final thought. Just look at the universities we revere, the ways we organize for community action today, and the deep roots of our modern social justice movements. How do the moral crusades and the educational institutions born from this era continue to shape our society today? It's pretty incredible to realize that the modern world is still feeling the powerful aftershocks of a 19th century spiritual response to a chaotic, rapidly expanding America. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.